So, Marvel's getting a new fighting game without Capcom. Let's talk about it. So, before we do, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully you enjoy the video because you just liked it. So, it'd be a shame if you didn't press the like button. Anyways, now that you've done all of that, let's talk about Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Oh, sorry, it's not Marvel vs. Capcom 4. So yeah, new Marvel game without Capcom, and it's relatively interesting, but it's not a surprise in my opinion. So let's start off by talking about Marvel and Capcom working together, producing, drumroll please, Marvel Superheroes. Marvel Superheroes is actually relatively interesting for a game back in the 90s, or at least the arcade era. 90s Marvel is not all like current day Marvel, it is completely different. But back in the 90s, there was two very big franchises, Marvel and Capcom. So Marvel said, hey, would you, Capcom, be interested in making a game for us? Hopefully, you know, using our characters, beating each other up. They're all going to be superheroes. So I just want, you know, could you do that? And Capcom said, you betcha, and made Marvel Superheroes. Why is this relevant to this entire story? If you noticed over the last decade or so, maybe even longer in fact, the only fighting game that's related to Marvel has always been Marvel vs. Capcom. It's kind of weird, isn't it? And to many people, that's kind of the way it's just been. It's been like that for, I don't know how long. It's been like that since Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like, it's been like that for nearly 2 decades. The fact of the matter is, where is the Marvel-only fighting game? And that is quite interesting when you think about it like that for a few seconds. People really want Marvel vs. Capcom 4, but Marvel themselves, they have Marvel Superheroes. They don't really have a fighting game, or at least none that I know of, and that's working with Capcom. So why go with Arc System Software over Capcom? I personally just think they saw their body of work and realized, hey, Arc System doesn't really have a bad fighting game. Like, to their credit to Arc Systems, they have really strong library when it comes to fighting games. You look at their portfolio for a few seconds, they handle guest-based fighting games really well. If you look at things like DNF Duel, as short as that game's lifespan was, the actual game itself, it had an interesting set of mechanics. Persona 4 Ultramax. So much love in that game. Genuinely confusing. It had a lot of love into it, and I genuinely cannot wait for a Persona 5 Ultramax or something like that. Just something dumb like that. I genuinely would love a new Persona fighting game. Genuinely, I think it was actually a really fun game. Then look at one of the most popular fighting games over the last 10 years, and that would be Dragon Ball FighterZ, introducing some of the most well-beloved characters in Android 21, I believe. And yeah, I think no one can actually say a bad word about it, other than late into its lifespan, there was a lot of, like, it felt very repetitive maybe here and there, but no one can not give it its flowers. It was a much beloved fighting game franchise and a good competitor into tag fighting games. It did its job and did it well. There really hasn't been a bad Arc System Software game, which I believe Marvel saw and just said, hey, would you be interested in doing the project? Capcom has made strides over the years, and Street Fighter 6 is incredible. Street Fighter 5 wasn't. I remember playing Street Fighter 5 and really not being impressed and just waiting for Tekken 7. But that leads into the next question of, is Marvel vs. Capcom dead? And the answer for me is no. For me, the answer is undoubtedly no. I think it's going to happen this year, or even next year, but I have this weird feeling that it's going to happen soon, and it sounds really weird. For me, this is not a spit in the face on Capcom. I think genuinely MARVEL Tōkon is not necessarily about MVC, it's about Marvel. The reason why I think this game even is a thing, Marvel doesn't really have a fighting game. It genuinely doesn't. You look at games like Injustice, and they do have a dedicated fighting game. For me, this is just a safe bet for Marvel. If you look at Capcom's recent history, they haven't all been hits at the current moment. I don't think this kills the relationship with Capcom whatsoever. I just think they're trying to get into the market. It's as simple as that. If people want to think of it this way, think of it as a sequel to something like Marvel Superheroes. Not necessarily the same thing at all. It was a Capcom game. I genuinely just think that they need their own individuality away from Capcom. I think this is a healthy move because they are literally intermingled with each other. People don't think of Marvel as an individual fighting game, they think of Marvel vs. Capcom. they're going to have Dante, they're going to have Kuma, they're going to have all these big Capcom names in there. But people seem to forget about the Marvel side, and quite frankly, I can see why they went down this route. Gives them their own unique identity, lets them create something that is going to be probably highly well produced. I ain't saying it's going to be perfect, but it's probably going to be well made because the company rarely goes wrong. But yeah, I still think Marvel vs. Capcom 4 is still going to be a thin one these days. I just think Marvel needs their own healthy divide at the current moment because they are literally joined at the hip with Capcom. They are joined at the hip because of the identity of Marvel vs. Capcom. Now let's speculate about Tokon itself and what we might see from this game. Let's start off with the layout because quite frankly I think it's going to be quite confusing doing a 4v4 fighting game in the first place. Like, how does that even work and where do you even start? So let's start off with Arc System's prior games before we get into what this game's layout could be. Start off with Go Gear. That started off with punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, dust. Now this is a very simple 4-button layout with thus usually acting as a universal button of sorts. Blaze Blue, A, B, C, D. D having some sort of unique mechanic though. This could be anything from a guy shooting a gun to a guy shooting a snake. Universally, D was quite all over the place with what it did and didn't do. Persona 4 Arena, we could see that this had A, B, C, D, with C and D always having something to do with personas. ENF Duels, A, B, S, MS. Usually, if I remember correctly, S and M has something to do with specials, random fantasy, light, medium, heavy, and U. Personally, we can already speculate that Tokon has light, medium, heavy. Tag games for Arc Systems have been either hit or miss. You love them or you hate them. Dragon Ball FighterZ, arguably the more popular of the two, has light, medium, heavy, special, assist 1, assist 2. Held the assist button to go into attack. Fairly easy sort of layout. 6-button fighter, like you had optionals for team macrons or super dash, like you had options to play around with. So yeah, then we can then move on to Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, A, B, C, D, and a tag button. For me personally, they will almost guarantee to have light, medium, heavy. There's sort of that feel that they're going to be using light, medium, heavy just the sheer fact that we see Captain America do a crouching heavy, or looks to be a crouching heavy. So what can we speculate from all these combined and leads into an anti-air and whole juggle scenario? So me personally, it's going to be light, medium, heavy. It could be A, B, C, D. We'll go into that a little later on why it might be labeled as A, B, C, D. But now let's get into the tag mechanic. Let's speculate on how this tag mechanic might actually work. And there is a very popular way of doing this. Light, medium, heavy, assist 1 through 3. Hold down the assist button for the character you want to tag into. It's simple, it's clean. I think it's boring and dull. So we're going to go for the interesting and speculative way of doing it. I personally hope they do because it is very interesting if they do this. The way that I want them to do it is A, B, C, D. These could be in light, medium, heavy, plus, I don't know, S. Let's do S. Tag button and assist button. The reason why I think this is the more interesting way of doing it is because technically it gives them a lot more flexibility for controls overall. But you might be thinking, how the heck would I be able to tag in a different character that I want to choose? Easy. You press tag button plus A, tag button plus B, tag button plus C, tag button plus D. Very simple. Assist button plus A, B, C, D. Now, what is the actual downsides to this? Well, technically we've already seen in the trailer that there's going to be a plentiful amount of characters on the screen at once, which is going to make rollback really fun. It's going to be quite hard to understand what buttons you want to tag into at any moment because we've already seen that if you're doing assist, you can go into a tag. So yeah, if you have multiple tags plus assists, it's going to be quite complicated to get your bearings on what you want to tag into at that point. But I still think this is slightly more interesting because it gives them an extra button. It's as simple as that, an extra button to play around with. Not to mention that we've already seen that assists do help with defensive mechanics. I don't really see the point in having 3 buttons that fundamentally do the same thing for defensive mechanics. So now let's get to the trailer itself. The first thing we notice is the clash between Captain America and Iron Man. And if you notice, notice for some unknown reason Captain America loses the clash, which I am not too sure why. My guess is the move is slower on recovery or gets advantage during the clash, but Captain America loses the clash. Interestingly enough, we now know that there is air recovery in this game, meaning you can air tech. Probably can ground tech too, which we can actually see later on in the trailer. What we then see is Iron Man do a jump into air dash, which means that this game might have instant air dashes, which means the execution for this game might be quite insane. After that, we then see Captain America do what most people are speculating as crouching fierce or crouching heavy to do an anti-air on Iron Man, which is quite weird when you actually think about it. So anyone who plays Guilty Gear Strive knows that the universal anti-air is 6p. And the reason why it is 6p is you don't necessarily want anti-air to be upwards in a Guilty Gear Strive or any game that has air dashing. You want it to be forward because most anti-airs you will be doing will be from an air dash. It'll be horizontally moving rather than vertically moving. This is why it is 6p rather than something like crouching heavy. So then we see Captain America then go into a juggle, a Marvel air combo if you will. Now the sequence is quite simple, it's one hit into ground bound combo. Fairly simple, fairly sweet, nothing speculative. This sequence is also the same reason for why I think this might have auto combo, because if you think of this from a person who's new to playing fighting games and just want to play as Spider-Man, they are not going to know perfect combos day one. The same reason for why there was auto combos in Dragon Ball Z Fighters. It's always been a smart mechanic because the pros are happy because they get themselves an intricate system that they can work with later on, and the noobs are happy because they can press A, B or C and just get themselves a decent combo. It looks like an auto combo to me, but again, that's speculation. I just think this game's going to have auto combo because theoretically every single partner game they've had has. Then we see Captain Marvel doing this assist into tag mechanic, which in most games I'm going to call it tag assault because Tekken Tag did it before. Like that's how Tekken Tag works. But it's going to lead to a lot of cool combos, I'm not going to lie, because you know, to tag into anyone special or at least a basic attack, like the combo opportunities there are really high. Like I'm going to enjoy that part. I really am going to enjoy seeing what I can mess around with that. Plus there's going to be 4 characters to do. Then Captain Marvel does this weird dodge, which might be a universal dodge mechanic. Who knows? The point is they can dodge projectiles. It might be a Captain Marvel only move. Point is there is a dodge mechanic. It might be universal, it might not be. Then the most interesting thing happens, the crossover mechanic. This is again why I think that there is going to be one tag mechanic of having 3. Because something like this doesn't make that much sense to have 3 individual tag mechanics. One tag mechanic would make this sort of button, just press one button, do crossover, so much simpler than thinking, oh, do I do tag 1, 2 or 3? One tag button would make something like crossover, parries, or anything like that involving stuff like this much more simple because you just got to remember, oh, press one button, not instead of pressing 3 buttons. And then we see Spider-Man do a launch, which is very interesting. I couldn't imagine doing one attack is so minus to the point where you can get a punish for a launch. So I'm going to guess this is something to do with me. I do think, if you notice, there is actually a green flash as well as a yellow flash between tags. So my speculation is there's going to be something to do with the Infinity Stones with tagging. I'm not saying there's going to be sort of like a Infinity Stone bonus. What I'm thinking, well, there might be. There might be an Infinity Stone bonus if you do all of these. You get the Infinity Gauntlet and do some sort of Ultra that way. Maybe there is that, but I think it's just to indicate different specials or different tag mechanics. Goes into launch, and notice how he launches but tag in. So I'm going to guess that means that is completely optional if you can do the follow-up with Spider-Man. By the looks of it, he chooses to then go into Spider-Man after he does the massive beam. He does the beam and then goes into Spider-Man. Very interesting. Then he's gone into an air combo, which kind of seems incorrect if you think about it, because we know for a fact that there is an air tech. So why didn't Captain Marvel tech? Maybe launches are all guaranteed to not air tech. It could mean that if you use crouching heavy, the juggle is priority. You cannot air tech a juggle. There must have been a reason why Captain Marvel couldn't actually, maybe it was just to show the cool combination, but Spider-Man does his cool little combo. Recovery, interestingly enough, if you recover, it looks like you have some iframes. So if you look, Captain Marvel is slightly shaded in white, meaning there might be some iframes when you recover correctly or you tech up. Maybe it is just to indicate that you've teched. Maybe it has some iframes, who knows, but it's very interesting. This to me looks more like a Spider-Man parry rather than a universal mechanic. A Spider-Man special rather than a universal mechanic special. So right here we can see that assists are not always the same as tags. Okay, that's just a glitch right there, but for some unknown reason, Spider-Man bounced twice. Okay, here we see more detail of Spider-Man doing his little parry mechanic, and it's quite interesting. It seems to be very similar to Captain Marvel's dodge. So if you look at it, dodges out the way and hits them, tags. So that basically to me means that like Captain Marvel's dodge, maybe it's a universal mechanic after all. After that is something we already can speculate. You can go from assist to tag, which is, again, like that's just gonna be quite chaotic. Like that by itself is gonna be right chaotic. But I do like the fact that they show it via a black and white so that both players know what's happening and carries on the combo, which I'm gonna be honest with you, combos in this game is gonna be right like stupid good. Now we see the new character do a instant air dash, and quite frankly I hope every character does have an instant air dash, because I don't know, it'd be kind of weird if not every character could do an instant air dash. It just feels weird. Then we see a special anti-air by Skullboy. Ghost Rider, that's his name. Now here we just see that can use more than one assist at once, which I gotta be honest, we kind of already gathered, like assist games already have this mechanic. Not much to say here other than the fact that you can do multiple assists at once, which is great for combo diversity. You know, you can make some ludicrously long combos via doing more than one assist. I do question about the rollback though for this game, because handling all that from both players' end is gonna be quite chaotic. Like, I can see that being a big point of contention for a 4v4 fighting game. What is also something we can look into is, if you notice, he tags into Doctor Doom, which was the last character he used as an assist. But it does make me question, can you tag into Captain America? It would be quite interesting if you could, because that would mean you could do some really nasty cross-ups if you could do that. I'm guessing the game doesn't have a push block. I'm guessing it's hold back. Heck, even the fact that you can do this within this sequencing would lead to some nasty cross-ups. If you could only tag to the last person you assisted, that would still lead into some right nasty cross-ups, I'm not gonna lie. And there we have it. We can see that you can get up in multiple different ways. I have no clue what you would call this. Neutral get up, maybe? And that's this beautiful punish, So, Doctor Doom has set up a laser from a satellite, right? This usually indicates that there's going to be a beam coming down from the sky, horizontal. We then see an instant air dash from Doom going over Ghost Rider, making his tag assist now a cross-up. For anyone who doesn't know what a cross-up is, that just basically means that he has to now block the other direction to what he normally would have to block. So now this has become a very nasty setup. If this game was a block button, you could just press and hold the block button. But this particular sequence makes no sense to be shown off if that was the case. So this means that this is a genuine cross-up. Then this turns this assist into a launcher. Dr. Doom then can carry on the combo, which shows again that you can air tech, and then goes for a grab. What we then also can see is that the camera prioritizes characters that are in the air. He loops the setup again, that's just dirty. Poised Storm, anti-air. Maybe it means that you can go super from assist, I don't know. Point is, we see an anti-air storm. We might also have been seeing magic sequences, I'm not too sure at this point. And then we just get into the whole showcasing of how chaotic this will look, because this game will be utter chaos. You got 4 characters you can mess around with. Not to mention you have defensive assist mechanics. Like, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be happening in this game. Oh, and this very weird sequencing where it shows that you can use all 4 characters in the juggle state. Like, that is... it'll be interesting to say at least, but I'm not too sure if it's going to be any good, other than the fact that it gives us a good look at these characters. Which, I'm not going to lie, right? all of these characters look very similar to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond. Like, if you look at the art style, I don't know, it's very comic booky. It's very good. I like it. I really do like the art style. And there we have it, a breakdown of everything we've seen on that trailer. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really a Marvel head. I genuinely don't like Marvel. I've just was always more of a DC fan. Like, I've always been more of a DC guy. And it's mostly because of the Joker. I've always loved the Joker as a character. I actually like that kind of character. Marvel just has top tier designs in my personal opinion, and I think are very much deserving of a fighting game without Capcom. I'm looking forward to this game just for the sheer fact that I think we're in the perfect time for it. I think it's the perfect company to lead the way, and I'm genuinely looking forward to this game. I'm not gonna lie, I hate tag games. I genuinely hate tag games, apart from Tekken Tag, because that was the obvious exception. But I genuinely am looking forward to this game. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. Yeah, I'll definitely be covering this game as much as I can. Definitely interested in the game concept as a whole. And yeah, from what I've read on Twitter, the roster is going to be quite interesting because they're going to let characters in who might not necessarily have been in a previous fighting game, which boggles the mind what that means, but hey, it should be interesting. And I might do a sort of like dream roster for me, like who I personally would pick for the game, as well as I might get a few friends to help me out with that video. I just have to ask them, you know? And I'm not very good at doing that. But no, have a great day and a great life. Ja, matane yo.